My name is Christina. I am 38 years old, and after 19 years of marriage, my husband decided to announce he was leaving me at our daughter's high school graduation. In front of 300 people on the most important day of our daughter Emma's life, Derek chose that moment to destroy everything we had built together. But what he did not know was that I had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. When I handed him that envelope, the color drained from his face. Before I tell you what was inside that envelope, let me know where you are watching from. Hit like and subscribe if you believe in karma. Because what happened next made 300 people gasp. I met Derek at the University of Colorado Boulder when I was just 19 years old. He was 23 at the time, working on his MBA while I was studying accounting. Our first encounter happened at a small coffee shop near campus. I was sitting at a corner table, textbooks spread out in front of me, trying to cram for a midterm exam. Derek walked past with his coffee, and somehow he managed to spill half of it directly onto my accounting textbook. I remember looking up at him, ready to be furious. But he had this look on his face, a mixture of genuine horror and embarrassment, that made it impossible to stay angry. He apologized profusely, offered to buy me a new book, and when I told him it was a rental, he insisted on buying me lunch instead, to make up for the disaster. That lunch turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a second date. Before I knew it, we were inseparable. Those college years were some of the happiest of my life. We would go hiking together in the Rocky Mountains every weekend, packing sandwiches and thermoses of hot chocolate. We had picnics in the park, studying side by side until the sun went down. Derek would quiz me on accounting principles while I helped him practice his business presentations. When he proposed during our senior year, I said yes, without hesitation. We got married the summer after I graduated in a small Presbyterian church in Denver. It was a modest ceremony, only about 50 guests, mostly family and close friends. I remember standing at the altar looking into Derek's eyes and feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. He made me a promise that day. He said, "I will always take care of you." And I believed him with every fiber of my being. 2 years later, our daughter Emma was born. She came into the world on a snowy February morning, and when Derek held her for the first time, he cried. I had never seen him cry before. In that moment, I thought our family was complete. I thought we had everything we would ever need. For the first several years of our marriage, I worked as an accountant at a small firm downtown. It was not glamorous work, but I enjoyed it. I liked the structure, the problem-solving, the satisfaction of balancing numbers. Meanwhile, Derek's career took off like a rocket. He went from entry-level marketing associate to manager within 2 years. 3 years after that, he became a director. By the time Emma was 8 years old, he had been promoted to vice president of marketing at Pinnacle Media Group. That promotion changed everything. The new position required extensive travel. Derek was gone 2, sometimes 3 weeks out of every month. When he was home, he was exhausted, distracted, always on his phone or laptop, dealing with some crisis at work. I found myself essentially raising Emma alone. One evening after I had put Emma to bed and was sitting alone in the kitchen, Derek came to me with a proposal. He said, "Christina, I have been thinking. Emma needs you. She needs a parent who is actually present, not one who is always rushing off to work. I am making enough money for both of us now. Why do not you quit your job and stay home with her?" I hesitated. My career was important to me. It was part of my identity. But when I looked at Emma's schedule, the school pickups and drop-offs, the dance classes, the soccer practices, the doctor's appointments, I realized Derek was right. Something had to give. And since his career was providing for our family financially, it made sense for me to be the one to step back. So I quit. I told myself it was temporary just until Emma was older. But temporary turned into a year turned into 5. 5 turned into 10. Before I knew it, a decade had passed, and I had not worked outside our home in all that time. During those 10 years, I poured everything I had into our family. I kept our house immaculate. I cooked dinner from scratch every night. I organized birthday parties and holiday gatherings, and school fundraisers. I drove Emma to every practice, every recital, every competition. I volunteered at her school, helped with her homework, stayed up late listening to her problems. Somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I stopped seeing my friends because I was always too busy with family obligations. I gave up my hobbies because there was never any time. My entire identity became wrapped up in two roles, Derek's wife and Emma's mother. I forgot what it felt like to be just Christina. Our finances were another area where I gave up control without realizing it. All the money went into a joint account, but Derek managed it. He paid the bills, handled the investments, made the financial decisions. When I needed money for groceries or household expenses, I would transfer it from the joint account. But I never really knew how much we had. I never saw the full picture. Derek would just tell me, "We are doing fine. Do not worry about it." Our house was a beautiful 5-bedroom colonial in Cherry Creek North, one of the nicest neighborhoods in Denver. It was worth about $1.2 million, and I had spent countless hours making it a home. I chose every paint color, every piece of furniture, every decoration. I planted the garden in the backyard and tended it every spring, but when I finally looked at the property, really looked at it, I discovered something that made my stomach drop. The house was only in Derek's name, not both of ours, just his. I confronted him about it once years ago. He brushed it off. He said it was just easier that way for tax purposes, that it did not mean anything. And because I trusted him, because I loved him, I let it go. I should not have. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs I missed. The changes in Derek happened gradually over the course of 3 years, so slowly that I did not notice them until it was too late. First, there was the increased travel. His business trips went from twice a month to 4 or 5 times. I would joke that I saw him less than I saw our mailman. He always had an explanation. Big project in Los Angeles, client dinner in Chicago, team building retreat in Phoenix. I believed every word. Then there were the late nights. He used to come home around 6 in the evening. Gradually that became 7, then 8, then 9. When I asked about it, he said the company was going through a restructuring that he had to put in extra hours to prove himself. Around the same time, Derek started paying unusual attention to his appearance. He joined an expensive gym and went every morning before work. He bought new clothes, stylish ones that looked like something a much younger man would wear. He started using cologne, expensive stuff from some boutique store I had never heard of. I complimented him. I told him he looked great. I thought maybe he was just going through a midlife thing trying to feel young again. I did not consider that he might be trying to impress someone else. Our conversations dried up. We used to talk for hours about everything and nothing. But in those last few years, Derek came home, ate dinner, watched television, and went to bed. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped sharing about his. We lived in the same house, but existed in separate worlds. The intimacy disappeared too. He avoided physical contact. When I tried to hug him, he would stiffen and pull away. In bed, he would roll over with his back to me. I blamed myself. I thought maybe I had let myself go. Maybe I was not attractive enough anymore. I spent hours at the gym trying to get in shape, bought new lingerie, tried everything I could think of. Nothing worked. One detail should have been a glaring red flag. One day I tried to use Derek's phone to look something up because mine was charging in another room. When I picked it up, it asked for a passcode. This was new. We had always known each other's passwords. I asked him about it later. He said it was company policy, something about security requirements for executives. I accepted that explanation without question. Why would my husband of almost 20 years lie to me I was a fool, a trusting, loving fool. But even fools eventually wake up. 3 months before Emma's graduation on an ordinary Thursday night, my world shattered. Derek had told me he was going to Los Angeles for a conference. He would be gone for 3 days, returning on Saturday. Emma was out with friends, so I had the house to myself. Around 10 in the evening, I was curled up on the couch watching a movie when our landline rang. We rarely used that phone anymore. Most people called our cells. But occasionally we got calls from older relatives or telemarketers, so I did not think much of it when I picked up. A woman's voice came through the line. Young, maybe late 20s. She said, "Hi, is this the Lawson residence?" I said yes, and asked who was calling. There was a brief pause, and then she said, "Oh, I am looking for Derek." He left his laptop charger at my place, and I thought he might need it for the conference tomorrow. I felt the blood drain from my face. His laptop charger. At her place. My voice came out barely above a whisper. I said, "His laptop charger is at your place." I could hear her sudden intake of breath as she realized her mistake. There was a long, horrible silence. I asked again, more firmly this time. "Who is this?" The line went dead. I sat there for what felt like hours, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I tried to tell myself there was an innocent explanation. Maybe she was a coworker. Maybe he had left something at a work meeting. But I knew. Deep down I knew. I called the number back. No answer. I called Derek's cell and it went to voicemail. I called again, and this time he picked up. His voice was casual, relaxed. He said, "Hey babe, what's up?" "I'm in a dinner meeting." I could hear background noise, music, laughter. It did not sound like any business dinner I had ever been to. I forced myself to stay calm. I told him I just wanted to say goodnight. He said, "Okay," told me he loved me and hung up. After that call, I did not sleep. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to confront Derek the moment he came home, to scream at him, demand answers, throw his things out of the house. But another part of me, a more rational part, knew that would be a mistake. Derek was smart. He was a skilled communicator, a professional manipulator. If I confronted him without proof, he would deny everything. He would turn it around on me, make me feel crazy, gaslight me into doubting my own instincts. I had seen him do it in business dealings. I knew what he was capable of. No, I needed evidence. Hard, undeniable proof that he could not explain away. So instead of crying or screaming, I got out of bed and went to the computer. I logged into our joint bank account and started going through the credit card statements. What I found made me sick. There were charges at fancy restaurants in Denver on nights when Derek claimed to be traveling. Hundreds of dollars at places like Fruition and Rioja restaurants we had never been to together. There were hotel charges at the Oxford, a boutique hotel downtown on weekends when he told me he was in Los Angeles. And the most damning evidence of all, a charge at Tiffany & Company for $3,000. I had never received any jewelry, not for my birthday, not for our anniversary, not for Christmas. I printed everything. I made copies. I started a folder. I did not cry. I did not fall apart. I just worked methodically and carefully, documenting every lie. Over the next few days, I continued to act normal around Derek. I smiled, I cooked his dinners, I asked about his work. Inside, I was dying, but I did not let it show. I needed him to think everything was fine while I gathered my ammunition. 1 week after that phone call, I made a decision that changed everything. I was going to hire a private investigator. I found Marcus Webb through an online search. His firm had excellent reviews specializing in marital investigations. I contacted him and arranged a meeting at a coffee shop in the Highlands neighborhood, far from anywhere Derek would ever go. Marcus was a man in his early 50s, a former Denver police detective with gray hair and steady eyes. He had the kind of calm, unflappable demeanor that immediately put me at ease. I told him my situation, leaving out no details. When I finished, he asked me one simple question. "What do you want to know?" I said, "Everything. I want to know who she is, how long this has been going on, where they meet. I need proof that will stand up in court if it comes to that." He nodded and quoted me his fee. $2,000 as a retainer with additional charges depending on how long the investigation took. He estimated 2 weeks minimum. I paid him in cash. Over the previous week, I had been withdrawing small amounts from ATMs, $200 here, $300 there, nothing large enough to trigger any alerts. By the time I met Marcus, I had accumulated enough. He started surveillance immediately. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. On the outside, I was the same Christina I had always been: devoted wife, loving mother, keeper of the home. On the inside, I was counting down the hours until Marcus's reports came in. They arrived via encrypted email, and each one was a fresh knife to the heart. The woman's name was Brooke Simmons. She was 28 years old, 14 years younger than me. She worked at Pinnacle Media Group as a marketing coordinator, which meant Derek was her direct supervisor. Their affair had been going on for at least 18 months. Marcus had photos. Derek and Brooke kissing outside her apartment building in Rhino, the trendy River North Art District. Derek and Brooke checking into a hotel together. Derek and Brooke at a romantic dinner, holding hands across the table, gazing into each other's eyes. There were records of trips they had taken together. Miami in January, supposedly a solo business conference. San Diego in March, listed on Derek's calendar as a client meeting. Las Vegas in April, which Derek had told me was an industry summit. She had been with him every time. I looked at those photos for a long time. The woman was young and beautiful with long dark hair and a perfect smile. She was everything I was not, or at least everything I felt I was not anymore. But I did not break. I refused to break. I thanked Marcus for his work. I told him this was exactly what I needed. And then I moved on to the next phase of my plan. The week after I received Marcus's final report, I scheduled an appointment with Linda Prescott. Linda was one of the most respected divorce attorneys in Denver. She specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for fiercely protecting her clients, particularly women who had sacrificed their careers for their marriages. Her office was on the 20th floor of a downtown high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Rocky Mountains. I brought everything with me: the private investigator's report, the photographs, the financial documents I had been quietly gathering for weeks. Linda reviewed each item carefully, her expression unreadable. When she finished, she looked up at me and said, "You have done your homework." I told her I knew Derek. I knew he would not let me go easily, especially not with the money involved. I needed to be prepared. Linda asked me to walk her through our financial situation. I explained everything. Derek earned $350,000 a year. Our house was worth approximately $1.2 million. Our retirement accounts totaled around $400,000. Our savings account held about $150,000. But here was the problem. Everything was either in Derek's name alone or in joint accounts that he controlled. I had no income, no assets in my own name, no financial independence whatsoever. Linda listened carefully, then said something that gave me hope. Colorado is an equitable distribution state. That means you are entitled to a fair share of all marital assets, regardless of whose name is on the accounts. And with this evidence of infidelity combined with the fact that you gave up your career to support his, we have an extremely strong case. She asked me what I wanted to do. I told her I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to make sure that when this marriage ended, I would not be left with nothing. Linda outlined a step-by-step plan. First, I needed to open my own bank account. This was completely legal, she assured me. I had every right to have a separate account in my own name. I went to a Wells Fargo branch the next day, one in a different part of the city from where Derek and I usually banked. I opened a checking and savings account with just $100 to start. Second, Linda advised me to transfer half of our joint savings into my new account. Under Colorado law, marital assets belong to both spouses equally. I was entitled to my half. By taking it now, I was simply protecting my share before Derek could hide it or spend it. The transfer made me nervous. I sat at my computer for almost an hour before I finally clicked the button. $75,000, half of our $150,000 in savings, moved from the joint account to my personal one. I waited terrified that Derek would notice, but he never checked that account regularly. He had no idea the money was gone. Third, Linda told me to make copies of every important financial document I could find: tax returns, investment statements, property deeds, insurance policies, anything and everything. I waited until Derek left for work one morning, then went into his home office. My hands were shaking as I opened his filing cabinet. For an hour I scanned documents as fast as the machine would allow: tax returns from the past 5 years, the deed to our house, statements from his 401k, life insurance policies. Everything went into my folder, both digital and paper copies. Fourth, Linda hired a forensic accountant to analyze our finances. She wanted to make sure Derek was not hiding assets. The accountant's findings confirmed my worst suspicions. Derek had a secret savings account I knew nothing about, containing approximately $80,000. He also had company stock worth about $120,000 that had never appeared on any of the statements he showed me. My husband had been hiding nearly $200,000 from me. With all the evidence assembled, Linda drafted the divorce petition. It demanded an equal division of all marital assets, including the house, the retirement accounts, the savings, and the hidden assets. It requested spousal support given my lack of income and the years I had sacrificed for the marriage. It asked that Derek pay all attorney fees. Linda asked me when I wanted to serve him with the papers. I had a date in mind: June 15th. She looked at me with surprise. That was Emma's graduation day. I nodded. Yes, it was. I explained my reasoning. Derek had been acting strange for weeks, distant, secretive, avoiding eye contact. I had a feeling he was planning something for graduation day. My suspicions were confirmed when I found a draft email on his laptop. He had not sent it yet, but he had written it. It was addressed to Brooke. The email said he was going to finally be free after the graduation. That he had a plan. That soon they could be together openly, without having to hide anymore. I understood then what he intended to do. He was going to announce at our daughter's graduation in front of all our friends and family that he was leaving me. He wanted to humiliate me publicly. He wanted to control the narrative to make himself look like the victim, finally escaping an unhappy marriage. But I was not going to let him. Linda understood immediately. She said, "So he is planning to blindside you. Then we will blindside him first." We finalized the paperwork. Everything was ready. All I had to do was wait for June 15th. I signed the divorce petition on a Tuesday afternoon, Linda witnessing my signature. As I put down the pen, I felt something unexpected. Relief. This marriage that I had devoted 19 years of my life to was ending. But for the first time in months, I felt like I had some control. Derek thought he was going to destroy me. Instead, I was going to show him that I had been 10 steps ahead all along. The morning of June 15th dawned bright and clear, not a cloud in the Colorado sky. I woke up early before either Derek or Emma. For a long moment I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, preparing myself for what was to come. This would be the last morning I woke up in this house as Derek's wife. By the end of the day, everything would be different. I got up and went through my morning routine as if it were any other day. Shower, hair, makeup. But I took extra care with my appearance. I chose a navy blue dress I had bought specially for this occasion, elegant and flattering, the nicest thing I had worn in years. I wanted to look my best when I faced Derek. When I came downstairs, Derek was already in the kitchen, drinking coffee and scrolling through his phone, probably texting Brooke. He barely looked up when I entered. He did not compliment my dress. He did not notice my new hairstyle. He did not seem to register my presence at all. I did not let it bother me. Today, his opinion no longer mattered. I made breakfast for Emma, a special graduation day spread with her favorite foods: blueberry pancakes, scrambled eggs, fresh fruit. She came downstairs in her cap and gown, the royal blue fabric bright against her blonde hair. "Mom," she said, "I am so nervous." I hugged her tightly. "You are going to be amazing, sweetheart. I am so proud of you." Derek finally looked up from his phone. "Let us go. We do not want to be late." No hug for Emma. No words of encouragement. He just grabbed his keys and headed for the door. I caught Emma's eye and I could see the hurt there. She noticed her father's indifference too. But this was her day, and I was not going to let Derek's coldness ruin it for her. Before I left the house, I checked my purse one last time. Inside was a white envelope containing everything I had prepared: the divorce papers, the photographs, a letter I had written explaining everything. This envelope was my secret weapon, and today I would finally use it. The graduation ceremony was held at the stadium of East High School. 300 students were receiving their diplomas that day, which meant thousands of guests filling the stands. The sun was warm on my face as we found seats in the parent section. Derek's parents had come, Gloria and Harold. They greeted me warmly, completely oblivious to what was happening in their son's marriage. My sister Jenna was there too, and my best friend Naomi. They knew something was wrong. I had confided in them weeks ago, but they did not know the full extent of my plan. Gloria hugged me and said, "Such a proud day." I agreed and smiled, though inside my heart was racing. The ceremony began. The principal gave a speech. Student leaders spoke. One by one, the graduates were called to receive their diplomas. When they announced Emma Grace Lawson, I stood up and cheered. Tears streamed down my face as I watched my baby girl walk across that stage. She was 18 years old, valedictorian of her class, heading to CU Boulder in the fall. She was everything I had ever dreamed she would be. Derek clapped politely, but his eyes kept drifting to his phone. Even at his own daughter's graduation, he could not be fully present. After the ceremony ended, the graduates poured onto the field to find their families. Emma ran toward us, her diploma clutched in her hand, her smile brighter than the Colorado sun. We gathered for photos. Emma between Derek and me, Emma with her grandparents, Emma with her aunt, and my best friend. For a few minutes we looked like a normal, happy family. Then Derek cleared his throat. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" Gloria smiled. "Oh, is Derek going to give a speech? How sweet." But I knew better. I felt my fingers tighten around my purse strap. Here it comes. Derek stood in the center of our little group, about 15 people, total family and close friends. I could see other families nearby still taking photos within earshot. He said, "I have something to say." "This is difficult." Emma looked confused. "Dad, what is going on?" Derek glanced at her, then away. "Emma, honey, I love you. This day is about you, but I also need to be honest with everyone here." I stood perfectly still, my heart pounding. Derek turned to face me. "Christina, I have tried. I really have tried. But I cannot do this anymore." Gloria's smile faded. "Derek, what are you saying?" Derek took a deep breath. I am saying I want a divorce. I am leaving Christina. Gasps erupted from everyone around us. Emma's face went white. Jenna grabbed my arm. Gloria put her hand over her mouth. Emma's voice was shaking. What, Dad? No, not today. Derek held up his hands as if to calm everyone down. I know the timing is not great, but I need to be authentic. I deserve to be happy. Jenna stepped forward, fury in her eyes. Are you kidding me right now? Naomi shook her head in disbelief. Derek, this is insane. But Derek was not done. He looked around at the assembled group and said, I have met someone else. Someone who makes me feel alive again. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, waiting to see how I would react. They expected tears, screaming, a breakdown. They did not know me as well as they thought. I stepped forward, my movements calm and deliberate. When I spoke, my voice was steady. Derek, thank you for your honesty. Finally. He looked at me clearly confused. He had expected me to crumble. Instead, I was standing there composed, almost serene. I continued. Since we are being authentic today, let me be authentic too. I opened my purse and pulled out the white envelope. This is for you. Derek took it hesitantly. What is this? I smiled. Open it. He broke the seal and pulled out the contents. I watched his face as he began to read, first the divorce petition. His eyes scanned the legal language and I saw his jaw tighten. Petition for dissolution of marriage. He looked up at me, shock written across his features. You already filed? I nodded. 3 weeks ago. I was just waiting for the right moment to serve you. Thank you for providing it. His hands were trembling now as he flipped to the next page. This time his face went pale. The photographs. Derek and Brooke embracing outside her apartment. Derek and Brooke at the entrance of the Oxford Hotel. Derek and Brooke at a candle-lit dinner, holding hands like lovers. He stammered. Where did you get these? How did you know? I kept my voice calm. I hired a private investigator. 18 months. Derek? You have been cheating on me for 18 months. Gloria's voice cut through the air like a knife. Derek James Lawson. Harold just shook his head and turned away, unable to look at his son. But there was more. Derek turned to the final pages of the envelope's contents. The forensic accountant's report, the details of his hidden savings account, the documentation of his undisclosed company stock. I said, I also know about your secret accounts. 80,000 in a separate savings, 120,000 in company stock. Did you think I would never find out? Derek's face twisted with rage. His voice rose to a shout. You had no right. I did not flinch. I had every right. That is marital property. And thanks to your infidelity and your attempts to hide assets, my lawyer says I will receive significantly more than half. Derek was screaming now, his composure completely shattered. This is entrapment. You set me up. I shook my head slowly. No, Derek. You set yourself up. I just documented it. He threw the envelope on the ground. I will not sign anything. I will fight this with everything I have. I bent down and picked up the papers, brushing off the grass. That is your choice. But the more you fight, the more you will lose. My attorney is very good at what she does. For the first time, Derek seemed to realize where we were. In the middle of a crowded stadium, surrounded by hundreds of families. People were staring, whispering, taking out their phones. His public humiliation of me had turned into his own public disgrace. Emma ran to me and threw her arms around my neck. Mom, I am so sorry. I held her close. Do not be sorry. Today is your day, and I am so incredibly proud of you. Over Emma's shoulder, I watched Derek stand there alone. His parents had turned their backs on him. His sister-in-law was glaring at him with undisguised contempt. His daughter was clinging to his wife. Not a single person moved to comfort him. He got exactly what he deserved. The immediate aftermath of Derek's announcement was chaos. Derek tried to approach Emma to explain himself, but she pushed him away. She told him she did not want to hear his excuses, that he had ruined her graduation, that she could not even look at him right now. He slunk away, eventually getting into his car and driving off without a word to anyone. The rest of us stood there in the stadium parking lot trying to process what had just happened. Gloria was crying, apologizing to me over and over. She kept saying she had no idea, that she never would have believed her son capable of something like this. I told her I knew. I did not blame her. Harold said nothing. He just stood there looking older than I had ever seen him, shaking his head in disbelief. Jenna took my hand. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "That took incredible courage." Naomi was already making plans. She said we needed to get Emma out of there, that we needed to celebrate properly, somewhere far away from this mess. We ended up at Mercantile Dining and Provision, a farm-to-table restaurant in Union Station. It was supposed to be a graduation celebration, and despite everything, I was determined to make it one. The dinner was surreal. We were missing the person who should have been there, but somehow his absence made everything lighter. We laughed. We told stories. We toasted Emma's achievements and her bright future. Gloria and Harold stayed for the meal, and I was grateful for their presence. They made it clear that Derek's actions were not their actions, that they still considered me family, regardless of what their son had done. By the time dessert arrived, Emma was actually smiling again. Not the forced smile of someone trying to pretend everything was okay, but a genuine smile of relief. She looked at me across the table and said, "How did you do it, Mom? How did you stay so calm?" I told her the truth. I said I had known for 3 months. I had spent that time preparing, planning, making sure that when this moment came, I would be ready. The hardest part was not the confrontation. The hardest part was waiting. We got home around 10 that night. The house was quiet. Derek had apparently come back while we were gone and taken some of his things. A suitcase, some clothes, his laptop. The closet in our bedroom looked strange with half the hangers empty. Emma asked where her father would stay. I told her probably with the other woman. It was honest, maybe too honest, but Emma was 18 now. She deserved the truth. She did not ask any more questions. That night, Emma asked if she could sleep in my room. I said of course. I changed the sheets first, stripping off the old bedding and replacing it with fresh white linens. It felt symbolic somehow, a clean slate. We lay in the darkness, mother and daughter, side by side. Emma asked if I was okay. Really okay. I thought about it before answering. I told her I was not okay yet, but I would be. I had spent 3 months preparing for this. The shock had worn off long ago. What I felt now was mostly relief. She asked what would happen next. I told her we would live, we would heal, we would build a new life. She asked if we would do it together. Always, I said. Always. We fell asleep holding hands. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. In the weeks following graduation, Derek tried to fight the divorce. He hired an expensive attorney and attempted to negotiate terms that would leave me with almost nothing. He wanted to keep the house. He wanted to keep the majority of the retirement funds. He offered me a small settlement and minimal spousal support, claiming that I had deliberately set him up and that the evidence I had gathered was somehow inadmissible. Linda shut him down at every turn. In our first mediation session, I saw Derek for the first time since graduation. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, unshaven. His clothes rumpled. Gone was the polished, confident executive. In his place was a broken man. I learned later that Brooke had ended things with him. Once the scandal became public, she panicked about the impact on her career. She transferred to a different company and cut off all contact. Derek had thrown away his marriage for a woman who did not even want him anymore. At the mediation, Derek tried to appeal to my emotions. He said he had made a mistake. He said he was sorry. He asked if there was any way we could work things out. I looked at him across the conference table and said, "There is nothing to work out. You made your choice 18 months ago." He said he was sorry. I said, "You are sorry because you got caught, not because you cheated." The mediator asked both parties to present their positions. Linda laid out our demands. The house would be sold and the proceeds divided. All retirement accounts would be split equally. All savings, including Derek's hidden accounts, would be divided. Derek would pay spousal support of $5,000 per month for 5 years, given that I had no income and had sacrificed my career for nearly 2 decades. Derek's attorney reviewed the numbers and quietly advised his client that fighting this in court would likely result in an even worse outcome for him. Derek exploded. He shouted about the spousal support. $5,000 a month for 5 years was $300,000 total. He called it extortion. Linda remained calm. She pointed out that Derek made $350,000 annually, that I had given up my career entirely to support his, that $5,000 a month was actually quite modest given the circumstances. After several sessions, Derek finally accepted most of the terms. He did not have a choice. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and his attorney made it clear that a judge would likely rule even more harshly. The final settlement was more than I had dared to hope for. The house sold for $1.1 million. After paying off the remaining mortgage and closing costs, I received $550,000. Derek needed the cash quickly, so he agreed to give me more than half to expedite the sale. The retirement accounts were divided equally. I received $200,000. The savings were split, including Derek's secret account. I kept the $75,000 I had already transferred, plus received an additional $40,000 from Derek's hidden bonds. The company's stock was liquidated and divided. I received $60,000. Spousal support was negotiated down slightly, $4,000 per month for 4 years, instead of $5,000 for 5. Still, that was $192,000 total. When I added it all up, I had received approximately $925,000 in assets, plus nearly $200,000 in future support payments. I was not rich, but I was secure. I would never have to depend on anyone again. Beyond the financial losses, Derek suffered in other ways. His relationship with Emma was badly damaged. For the first 3 months after graduation, she refused to speak to him at all. Eventually, she agreed to occasional lunches, but their bond was forever altered. The easy affection they once shared was gone. Gloria and Harold were devastated by their son's behavior. Gloria told Derek he was not the man she had raised. He was not welcome at family gatherings until he showed genuine remorse and made amends. Even Derek's career suffered. Word of the affair spread through Pinnacle Media Group. Human Resources launched an investigation because Brooke had been his direct subordinate, which violated company policy. Derek was not fired, but he was demoted. The position of VP Marketing went to someone else. Derek was transferred to a regional office in Colorado Springs, a significant step down. His salary dropped from $350,000 to $280,000. The last I heard, Derek was living alone in a small apartment in Aurora, a far cry from the 5-bedroom house in Cherry Creek North. I did not take pleasure in his suffering, but I did not feel sorry for him either. He made his choices. He faced the consequences. That is how life works. 1 year after that graduation day, I stood on the balcony of my new condominium in Washington Park. The sun was setting behind the Rocky Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I held a glass of wine in my hand, watching the colors change as the day faded into evening. So much had changed in 12 months. I had bought this condo with cash, $380,000 for 2 bedrooms, and a beautiful view. It was smaller than the house in Cherry Creek North, but it was mine. Every square inch of it belonged to me. I had gone back to work, too. It took some time to dust off my skills, but I found a position as an accountant at a clean energy startup downtown. The salary was $72,000 a year, modest compared to what Derek used to make, but every penny of it was earned by my own efforts. Emma had started her freshman year at CU Boulder. She came home most weekends, and we had developed a closeness that we never had before. Going through this ordeal together had bonded us in ways I never expected. She was slowly rebuilding her relationship with her father, too. I encouraged her to do so. Whatever Derek had done to me, he was still her dad. She deserved to have both parents in her life. As for me, I was rediscovering who I was outside of being someone's wife. I had started hiking again, something I had loved in college but had abandoned during my marriage. Every weekend I drove up to the mountains and walked among the aspens and pines, breathing the clean mountain air. I joined a book club with Naomi. I signed up for yoga classes. I reconnected with friends I had neglected for years. For the first time in 2 decades, I was living for myself. One evening as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I reflected on everything that had happened. I thought about the lessons I had learned. The first lesson was to never lose yourself in a relationship. I had given up my career, my friends, my identity, all in service of being Derek's wife and Emma's mother. When the marriage ended, I was left with almost nothing. Never again would I let my entire existence revolve around another person. The second lesson was to always maintain financial independence. I had trusted Derek completely with our money, and he had used that trust to hide assets and maintain control. Now I had my own accounts, my own income, my own security. No one could ever put me in that vulnerable position again. The third lesson was to know my own worth. For years, I had accepted Derek's neglect and indifference because I thought I did not deserve better. I blamed myself for his distance. I tried to change myself to win back his attention. I should have recognized that his behavior reflected on him, not on me. The fourth lesson was that preparation is power. If I had confronted Derek the night of that phone call without evidence or legal counsel, he would have manipulated the situation to his advantage. By waiting, by planning, by gathering my ammunition, I ensured that when the battle came, I would win. The fifth and most important lesson was that endings can be beginnings. Losing my marriage felt like the end of the world at first, but it turned out to be the start of a new chapter 1, where I was the author of my own story. A few weeks ago, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A package from Emma with no explanation, just my name and address. Inside was a photo album she had made herself. The first page held a picture of the two of us at her graduation, taken after Derek had stormed off. We were standing together, arms around each other, smiles on our faces, despite everything. Underneath, Emma had written, "The day everything changed. The day I learned what strength looks like." The pages that followed documented our year together. Photos from our first hiking trip to Rocky Mountain National Park. Pictures from movie-in day at her dorm. Snapshots of Thanksgiving in my new condo, just the two of us and a slightly overcooked turkey. On the last page was a handwritten note. "Mom, thank you for teaching me that women do not need to be saved. We save ourselves. I love you." I cried when I read those words. Not tears of sadness, but tears of joy. This was what mattered. This was what I had fought for. People sometimes ask me if I miss Derek. The honest answer is that I miss the man I thought he was. The man who spilled coffee on my textbook and bought me lunch to apologize. The man who held Emma for the first time and cried with happiness. the man who promised to always take care of me. But that man never really existed. Or maybe he did once, and somewhere along the way, he disappeared. The real Derek was someone who could cheat on his wife for 18 months. Someone who could plan to humiliate her at their daughter's graduation. Someone who could hide money and lie without remorse. I do not miss that man at all. When Derek announced he was leaving me that day, he expected me to crumble. He expected tears and begging and public humiliation. Instead, I handed him an envelope that contained his own destruction. That single moment taught me something I will never forget. The person who controls the narrative controls the outcome. Derek wanted to write my story as the pathetic abandoned wife. I rewrote it as the woman who saw the ending coming and prepared for victory. If you are in a marriage right now where you feel invisible, where you have lost yourself, where something in your gut tells you things are not right, trust that instinct. Do not ignore the warning signs. Do not make excuses for behavior that hurts you. And if the worst happens, do not react impulsively. Take your time. Gather evidence. Protect yourself legally and financially. Build your case. And when you are ready, when the moment is right, make your move. Derek thought he was leaving me. But the truth is, I had already left him months before. He just did not know it. That envelope was not revenge. It was my declaration of independence. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a situation where everyone expected you to stay silent? Have you ever discovered the strength you did not know you had? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. You never know who might be going through something similar. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you strength in your struggles, wisdom in your decisions, and the courage to always put yourself first. Until next time, take care of yourselves.